John Paul Caponigro is this week's guest on the Crit House. His artistic journey is a blend of art and technology. His work's recognition in collections like the Smithsonian and Princeton Museum is a testament to his artistic impact. As a digital media pioneer, he has collaborated with leading corporations to refine the tools we all use to create our art. He's committed to sharing his knowledge, from authoring books to speaking engagements and to photographic workshops. His Google and TEDx talks offer a glimpse into his philosophy and approach. Today, John talks about his myFIVE images from Elliot Porter, his father, Paul Caponigro, Jerry Ullsman, Walter Chappelle, and Andy Goldsworthy. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We had a little introduction there at the start, but that's my little thumbnail about who John Paul is. Like when you talk about yourself in the art world, how do you talk about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And what's the story?
I'm a visual artist. I make images, drawing, painting, photography and video, words, AI, and writing. I'm also a writer. I majored in art and lit in school, and the two have followed me the whole way through. Everything I do is either eco or ekphrastic. Art in response.
I'm sorry, say that again. Is eco and
or ekphrastic?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so ekphrastic writing is basically writing in response to art, not writing about art, but in response to art. So Keats' Ode to a Grecian Urn is a poem that stands on its own, but it also refers to this art object. And I think ekphrastic writing is the democratic antidote to art speak. But basically, my art is about the nature of perception and the perception of nature. And the two are deeply entwined. How we see ourselves changes the way we see nature. How we see nature changes the way we see ourselves.
So you had this assignment of having to choose 5 images for the myFIVE series here. Tell us about what you did to make your decision on what those 5 images were going to be. Hard, easy? What was the story there?
Easy, because I've done this for a long time and I've encouraged my students to do it as well. In fact, one of the exercises I encourage my students to do is take a look at all of your images and decide that you're going to tear up or burn all of them except for one. Which one do you keep?
Ooh.
That's a fun exercise.
Oh.
Of course, you don't have to do it, but making that decision really gets you down into what are the core values, what's driving your work. And so having done this with, say, a dozen photographers, and there's actually a post on my website about it that kind of ranks my top 12 influences and weights them by 3 criteria: content, form, and feeling. It was really a matter of distilling those 12. And the 5 that I've chosen are all people who have changed my understanding of the medium and helped expand my relationship with nature.
Well, let's take a look at those 5 images.
Yeah.
So the first image we have is from Elliot Porter. Talk about this image, and what is it? This image that was the thing that moved you, or was it Elliot's work writ large?
It was Elliot's work writ large. It was the man himself. My mom designed many of his books, and so I got to spend a lot of time with him as a young man, and he was very inspirational. I admired his vitality, his scientific mind, his environmental advocacy. This image has a more metaphoric quality to it than what I'm going to emphasize. And I thought it was interesting that I picked this image because it's a tough choice. What Elliot's work really got across to me was when I looked at his images, I felt I had a profound sense of seeing a deeper order in nature. It was beyond circles, triangles, and squares, beyond the Euclidean geometry. And years later, when the author James Glick asked to collaborate with Elliot on the book Nature's Chaos, which my mother designed, there was the language, fractal geometry. It was the language and science to describe a deeper order in nature that I felt Elliot had intuited, that he'd come to it visually. He'd touched it in many other ways. And I just thought it was fascinating that a man who was so scientifically oriented was also guided by intuition, and sometimes the visual arts in general can touch on these deeper truths without needing the rational mind to get you there. Though it may have plowed the fields or fertilized the soil, or might have prepared it. So it was fascinating for me to see that.
So your second image from your father, Paul, tell us why this is here and what this means to you.
Well, how could I not include my father? I
Yes.
mean, he raised me. Before I even learned the word photography, I saw him working with photographs. He personally introduced me to so many other photographers, as did my mother, who produced some of his books and also many other photographers' books as well. And this image is one of the reasons I got into photography. The mystery that a mechanical recording could speak in metaphor. Subtitle to this, the way of describing this in the studio is the Galaxy Apple. That's not the official title, but that's the way that a lot of people refer to it. And the idea that you could see the macrocosm in this microcosm, that you could speak poetically and in metaphor, not just directly with a machine, I think is profoundly interesting. And it's pretty abstract. And I love the way that abstraction can lead us into that more personally reflective, poetic dimension. That an apple can become a galaxy. That's fabulous. It's one of those key things. Discovering the extraordinary and the ordinary is something to, words to live by with photography in particular, because as Frederick Somers says, we're at the mercy of our experience. Less so these days. I also think it's really fascinating that this discovery for Dad happened during the printing. It wasn't the exposure, but he had made some dark test prints and looked at the prints and was alive enough all along the process, from photographing it to developing it to making the print, and realized the darker version is much more interesting. And that's when the galaxy bloomed. You start to lose the contour of the apple. And this directly speaks to that idea of the photograph being both a window and a mirror and becoming an equivalent experience. It's influenced so many other people as well.
Well, I've seen a couple of your videos where you talk about the process of printing and the experimentation when you go through with the print. Is this where you got that sort of idea of experimenting with the prints, dark light, different elements within the editing or the processing process?
Yeah, this epitomizes it. I mean, Dad would be speaking out about it forever. Ansel would be around. Dad would be teaching at Ansel's workshops. Ansel would be saying the negatives, the scores, the print is the performance. And I was just like, yeah. I'll talk more about that. I'll tell you a story on our next one.
Well, let's go to that. Jerry Yulsman.
Jerry, I'm going to tell you two stories on this one. First, years ago when I first decided to pick up photography, this was during summers while I was studying painting in college. I figured, well, I won't have that much more time with Dad. Little did I know Dad would move into my backyard. Also, I needed to make reference for my surreal paintings, but I was also interested in that Galaxy Apple and Frederick Somers, in Siskin's very abstract photographs. There was this photography stuff is really interesting, and particularly learning photography, standing shoulder to shoulder with Dad. He gave me one of his view cameras that he photographed the megalithic monuments with. It was like getting Excalibur. It was fabulous. We went and photographed those together. It was fascinating to see that we would stand shoulder to shoulder with the same tools and come away with different images. I was just fascinated. How did our ghosts get in that machine? Just fascinating. So Fergus Burke, we were visiting in Dublin. He was one of the Abbey Theatre photographers for so many years. And he starts in, oh, so you're getting into the family business, are you? So who are your influences? I'm like, well, Blake, Bosch. No, photographers. Oh, Jerry Yulsman. No, pick another. He doesn't count. Can you imagine that? Particularly after Photoshop, which I think is really funny, and Jerry never really used it, right? For me, Jerry demonstrated that photography can be a place for not only for memory, but also for imagination, for visualization, for dreams, all of it. That our interiors can be as important as the exterior as well. And you kind of widen the playing field for so many people. And here's the last piece of the story. I remember I probably was around 7 when Dad was teaching at the Ansel Adams workshop, and so was Jerry that week. And they were all having dinner one night, and Dad starts in, well, you know, Ansel, if you can pre-visualize your images, you deserve what you get. And Ansel started to take him seriously and backpedaled, said, wait, when we came up with the term pre-visualization, we didn't mean we knew exactly what we were going to get. We just meant we were in control of our tools enough to get where we wanted to go. After all, I also said the negative is the score and the print is the performance. I'm looking at Jerry. I'm thinking, this conversation doesn't fit. This guy's shooting fragments. He doesn't know what he's going to use. He might reuse it multiple times. Like, his process is so different. Right on cue. He said, you're the reason I came up with that mouthful, post visualization. Can't we just call it visualization? But I think we actually need more than 2 words to be able to describe all the different ways of envisioning an image and realizing it. There are lots of different ways of entering into that creative process, and Jerry was tremendously inspiring to me.
Walter Chappelle with your fourth image. Beautiful.
Yeah, so like just a fascinating image, and also just sort of proving that photography can be so much more. I was actually just writing about this in a poetry workshop last night, writing a piece around this. Walter showed us how he made these, pulled us into his darkroom, turned out all the lights, even the red one, put a plant on a sheet of film, in this case, a piece of paper, and hooked it up to a car battery. And you could see this faint kind of purpley glow, but nothing else. And then he would develop the paper, and out came this auric photograph, this Curlian photograph, this, he called the series Metaflora. So this isn't a recording of light reflecting off of surfaces. This is an electrical reaction with a photosensitive receptor, then later developed. Feels like he photographed the inner light as not the outer light. I thought it was just fascinating. To me, it also highlights that photography can expand our senses, that can help give us views into the universe that we can't see with our eyes. Extraordinary as they are, there are other aspects of the spectrum, microscope, telescope, X-ray, and photography can help us see more. Not necessarily see exactly the way that we see, but even see more. We get to put it all together in this mind.
Yeah.
Or
a scientific visualization of nature. Yeah. Beautiful image. So here's an artist, your number 5th, that I'm going to be honest with you, I was unfamiliar with before. So tell us about Andy Goldsworthy.
Sure. And Andy Goldsworthy is the only one I haven't met in person. Tremendously influential. Andy Goldsworthy is considered a sculptor first, but he also makes photographs of his very ephemeral installations. Some of his stone walls will persist, like the one that he has down at Storm King in New York. But in this case, he's ground down a red rock and is throwing it into the pool, and it makes this pattern in the river and then disperses. He'll do things with icicles and they'll melt. He'll do things along the tide lines. The tide will come in and wash it away. It's this very light touch with nature. He considers it a collaboration with nature. And I find that particularly compelling. I think in this day and age, it's hard for us to create larger monuments like Egyptian pyramids or petroglyphs because there's so many of us. The whole place would be covered in petroglyphs. The whole place would be covered in graffiti. And these more ephemeral engagements with nature, I think, are a really great example. I consider my work environmental virtual art, or environmental art in virtual space. And it's that light touch that I'm interested in. And to me, that also challenges this notion of the decisive moment. Which one of these is the decisive moment?
Right. Yeah.
You know, never mind that for most of us, we show about 1% of what we shoot. So really, isn't photography the indecisive moments? We choose the decisive moment, but this whole notion that there's one shot, I think that images build upon one another. And sometimes you might have more than one shot of the same subject. I do that a lot. Many of my composites are 2 images put together. So they have 2 different ways of looking unified. And also I work in series. So one image builds upon the other. And just like a chapter in a book, it builds up into something even greater. You're looking for synergy, or at least I am.
John Paul Caponigro, such a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like I'm going to go back to this video in our discussion a number of times so that I make sure I understand everything that you have said, because I think I have a lot to learn from you. So thank you for joining us on the Crit House.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure sharing time with you.
And thank you all for watching the Crit House.